supposed to do, in regards to couldn't spend the time because obviously I had two meetings. And yeah, I couldn't spend that time on the charts, so yeah, we ended up not obviously trading as much as obviously what we normally would. So these are all things we'll go over in a bit. There's obviously a few massive topics, right? One is gold, right? And obviously two is the dollar, and three is Bitcoin. All right. Now, gold is that classic in my opinion. What's obviously triggered this, this sell off here, potentially, hitting 4,300. I mean, it's gone crazy. If you look at it, what were we in January? We were trading. So last year, the highest we got to was 2,700. All right. This year we're at 4,300. So gold, one thing that, everyone's kind of speaking about is, talking about since 2011, gold's kind of been in a bit of consolidation here. Well, obviously this year has been the big one where it's really pushed down. All right. And this is one of the reasons why, Bitcoin too hasn't obviously, yes, it's been bumping, but obviously, it hasn't been pumping, like it usually does, because there's all this hype now that, well, with gold breaking out this year and pumping high, is there as much need for Bitcoin? Right. And the truth is, no one knows. All right, because whenever we're trading anything at all-time highs, no one knows because it's never happened before in history. Yes, everyone, my opinion, you can obviously go back and retrace and say, yeah, but there was this wave and there was a halving and there was a wave and there was a halving and then there was a wave and then a halving. Yes, but because we don't have much history past, probably you could argue Bitcoin's history really started in 2020. All right, really, you know. So 5 years, no one knows. Right? Could it pop? Could it pump? I mean, I'm a believer that yes, how all the financial institutions are adopting our planning. They don't plan, short term. That they obviously plan long term. Obviously, countries, for example, Dubai is a very, very small country, but obviously it's got big expectations. Just to let you guys know how, whenever they're planning anything, even a part of a city, they're planning 50 years. All right. So for them to adopt Bitcoin, now, yes, there is obviously the expectation. Are we due a pull back? Who knows? Gold. I can't see what has changed. What actually institutionally has changed. Yes, obviously, US have dropped interest rates by half percent, but obviously nothing's changed. There's still bad jobs data. There's still high inflation. There's still tariff talks, with China. It's nothing's really changing. So to me, with gold, yeah, I'd probably be looking at maybe about a 4 hour time frame. I'd be looking at, like we normally do, where are the areas we could potentially come back to and why, 4 hourly wise, this was the last, some people would obviously class this all as one move. Even if you don't class it as one move, this would be the area where you'd be thinking, right, you know what, we are in an uptrend, all right, until this breaks, all right, until we get this move here, right, and then yes, but even in the history, gold hasn't dumped crazy. All right. If we look at this on a monthly history, all right, the most we've come down to in history, right? But obviously you've got to, like look at this in a different way too. Yes, obviously it's 8.3 thousand pips, yeah, or 8,300 pips, which if you put this into perspective, from an all-time high is only here. All right. It's not dumping down here. All right. Gold is here to stay. And I think what's been beautiful this year is, everyone's who didn't really understand how gold works and obviously how much of a powerhouse it's been. Gold has been, for me, the investment. All right. But it's not day trading it. It's a bit like Bitcoin. It is holding it. Um, so even if we dropped as much as this here, that then we could argue, yes, you know what, we might actually pull down into this area. But then on the flip side too, you've probably got from bottom to top on a trend, right? We've got 167,000 pips, yeah, right? We have outsmoked that easy, right? Like easy without anything, So yeah, to me, I think the worst pullback we're probably ever in history gonna have will now be back here. And I think if gold ever comes back here, just buy the shit out of it because it's yeah, I just can't imagine it ever going. Now, there's also, historically, and I'll put this obviously in, inverted commas here, when gold historically starts to pull back, historically over the last probably 5 years that Bitcoin's been doing its kind of thing here, Bitcoin starts to pump. All right. I personally think both of them are. We've got nothing has changed, right? Yes, I'd say Donald Trump is actually strengthening his position right now, and I think this shut down, whatever, between the not the Federal Reserve, but obviously Congress and the government. That's only obviously going to help them, or it's only kind of strengthening Donald Trump's position. All right, which is what they didn't anticipate. So the dollar is climbing. Why? Because there's absolutely no data coming out. All right, this we've been in lockdown this whole month here, where in regards to news events, and all this means is that yeah, the Donald Trump can control it because there's no data to prove otherwise. So he's in no hurry. So it'll be quite interesting to see. But yeah, I think that we, should see gold back at all-time highs. Whether I'm right or wrong, we're obviously just going to have to wait and, see. But if you look at Friday, we obviously pumped, this means obviously dollar is still classed as quite a strong safe haven because, it pumped, nicely with obviously, gold, or what was it, down 1.67%. But obviously, if you look at silver, it was crazy, 4.5% pretty much. So, what am I going to be looking at and why? We obviously we know that euro and the dollar obviously indirectly correlated. So the stronger the dollar is, the weaker euro's gonna be. I don't know how much more the dollar's gonna pump. We'll obviously have to wait and see how we open. We've got our key area here, all right, which we're gonna be monitoring. Yes, we pump, but we've also got to take into consideration Friday flows here, and profits obviously being taken off the table. So we're obviously going to have to be aware of this area here. It will be quite a big change if we just blow up to 99. I can imagine, something potentially like this happening and then potentially we coming up to this area. Or, we might just have a complete, fake out and trade this week in this consolidation, zone here. So, we're obviously going to have to wait and, see how that plays out. Let's just have a look at the news. Like I always say to you guys, Sunday we want to look at things from a higher time frame only because obviously you don't know how markets going to open. You can obviously try and pre-plan as much as you can, but obviously you don't know how it's going to open. Monday, heavy day for China, so obviously you have to monitor AUD. AUD finished the week pretty strong. So we're just gonna have to wait and see. We've obviously got some speakers. We've got some Canadian inflation data, so we will start looking into CAD. Potentially a Euro CAD on Tuesday, because if we know how the dollars are getting on there, and we do have a stronger CAD, then obviously we can start to, play off the fact of, what we, know will happen. We've then got pound CPI data. We've got lots of speakers here. I'm going to ignore all the US data because obviously it keeps, it's there, but it keeps getting taken off the board. Thursday, obviously, got more CAD data, more Euro speakers. And then Friday, we got some pound retail sales. So I might heavily look into pound this week, just to obviously have an overall view because we've got lots of pound news and lots of CAD news. Yes, potentially we've got some USD news, but that just obviously keeps getting taken off. So, and there's no one really apart from Vice Chair Barr. There's no one else really heavy speaking from what I can see from the Federal Reserve. So yeah, we're going to be obviously basically playing this week off of anticipation only. So we're obviously going to have to watch out for that one. Um, let's just have a look at this overall here. Yes, you could argue there's a very, very nice kind of higher trend happening here, right? You could argue that this is a lower high. Potentially, are we coming down to make a lower low? Euros, the same kind of aspect here. We've obviously made this low. We've come up, we've retested this area here, which is obviously where we would anticipate because we obviously blew through this first area here. So next one to get tested was this one. Question is now, will this hold and will we continue down into this area here? Or will we be, looking to, bounce off of this and potentially trade in between here? And these are the kind of things you want to be looking at on, Sunday evening. I recommend daily 8 hour, 4 hour. I mean, if we check the 4 hour here, we're technically in an uptrend. Where would we potentially be testing this area here? Or potentially, if it was a 1 hour, if it was on the 4 hour, you might be looking into this area. And like I was mentioned, you can confirm roughly, or kind of confirm if you're looking in the right place by using Fibonacci. Why is it an uptrend on the 4 hour? If you get your highlighter out, I know this isn't exact, but you can see a downtrend forming here. Yeah, still a downtrend, equal low. This is one move here. So what's that? A higher high because it's broken this lower high here. Yeah, completely smashed it. So, what can we anticipate as our highest prospect will be a move like this. All right. If we obviously get the other way around, then trend is going to break. Trend is very, very easy to learn to kind of mark up, and obviously you should be looking right. You know what? 4 hour only looking to buy. 1 hour. Similar to. There's no this would probably be classed as a bit of an equal, low here. However, this Friday candle looks very, very bearish. However, we have to remember you almost have to ignore this candle here because it's Friday afternoon. So what was happening? This was holding. Yeah. And obviously, like we can see, even on an hourly, you could argue you've got something like this happening on. That's one move there. This here would be classed as an equal low because obviously we've got our low here and our low here. So that would be an equal low. So if this holds and you're sticking to your hourly, this could be trending back to this side here. If we break, then we could be coming down into this area. This area here would be the first area I'll be testing, because we obviously might then have to look at our higher time frame, knowing that there is, an overall trend. I know there's lots of drawings on here, at the moment, but knowing that our this hourly move, or sorry, let me redraw it. So this hourly move here, all right, this one here is the same as this 1 4 hour move here, yeah, which might come down here. And this is what I mean about, looking at different time frames is, subjective. So, it isn't the end of the world if you are or you've taken a, short here because obviously it all depends on obviously what time frame you are looking at overall. But to me, Euro seems the best kind of area to know really what to do would be about this area here. Oh, let me just get rid of that. Would be about this area here. Why? Because is that highlighted? Oh, yellow. There we go. Why? Because obviously, if we come on, if we go on a 4 hour time frame, we're technically changed into an uptrend. If this was to break and retest, we then know that we could be heading to the downside here. If not, we could be coming up to test these highs again, potentially equal high here. So, these are all the small things that you need to look into. Now, lots of you have, messaged your goals in, yeah? And I do think we can go through some more charts in a bit, but, I do think goals are very, very important. All right. So I want to break them down. Yeah. So we've got goal A. So we're going to put goal A. We're going to put goal B. All right. And then we're going to put goal C. Yeah. All right. So these are our kind of three goals here. All right. Goal A. All right. Realistic. Yeah. Potentially what? Oh, admit. So potentially, right, what you say monetary value, uh, make now. I've had most of you guys who have messaged in have been very, very realistic with your goals, which, I do like that. And obviously, no one ever explained this to me, all right? When I first started, but I'm gonna, write these down, all right? And then, goal B needs to be, I'm not gonna put doubling. We're gonna do scaling from goal A, yeah, and then goal C scaling. All right, it's that easy from goal B to achieve, end goal. Yeah. Right. Now, these are obviously, three ways of breaking down your trading. Yeah. And I promise you, once obviously I go through this, you're gonna really, really understand it. All right. So say for example, I'm gonna draw this in a new box here. All right. So you might be say, working in Costa, all right, right now, and say for example you're a student. We're gonna make it easy. You are making right 2K, right, per month. Yeah, right. Now if anyone's goal A is twice this, that's more than obviously what you're, making now. Even if you're a barista in Costa, I'm sure it's going to have taken you, through 3 months, 6 months to train to obviously understand, to then be like, you know what? I could make any coffee blindfolded with my hands, tied behind my back. Yeah. All right. Now, training's no different to that. One thing I explained previously, and I won't obviously do it because I have explained it a couple of times, is, I've obviously got a friend who works for Deutsche Bank. Every trade that they he said roughly goes through 40 pairs of eyes, and they're only trading one uh one trading session, and that's the London team, yeah. And then they've got obviously their, New York team, their Asia team, and then obviously those teams are even split up to, FX, crypto, stocks, commodities, so they are absolute, masters in their area. Yeah. And obviously they've got a lot more information, and they've obviously got a lot more eyes looking out for the information too. Well, we've got to do all of this, yeah. And these guys have, to top it all off, they've all got, master's degrees. All right. Now, I don't have that, but obviously I'm realistic that, yeah, I used to be a tradesman previously. Right. I had my own construction company. Now, if I was honest, probably took me 7 years to be able to say, you know what, I could do anything, and I could do it, to a very, very high, standard. But even I come into trading, and after 3 months, I was like, why am I not, making 20K? Why? It's easy, but it's because obviously I hadn't gone through the process. All right. So being realistic is goal, number one. All right. I would probably split goal A into two. All right. And if your goal is, say for example, you want to make what you make now, because you also have to be realistic with the amount of money you're trading with. All right. So I would say, focus on making 1K. Yeah. If 2K is your target. Yeah. All right. Focus on making this. And then you then go into, more detail then. Yeah. All right. So you go into more detail, that then this is, let me just do this here. Right. This here is, if you imagine you got 4 weeks in every single month, yeah. All right. And if you imagine here, oh, let me just delete that. Right. All you've got to do, right, is then make 250 pounds a week. Yeah. All right. That's what you've got to achieve. Yeah. To, make your 1K. All right. Now, to make this even easier, right, to make this even easier, right, to achieve this, right, and this is gonna hurt, but if you do one trade per week, right, the 30 pips, say for example, you're a university and you do 1.25 lots. That's all you need to do. Every single week, you do 4 trades a month, and then that will achieve your, 1K. All right. Now, you can start smaller and obviously make this, a bit longer if you wanted to, so you could even halve it again, and obviously, start with 500. Yeah. All right. But all you've got to do is complete the hiss. Yeah. All right. And anyone who's been trading for 12 months, all right, should understand how to place a trade. Right. And to be to be realistic here, right? If I was to explain to you one thing, right? So we've got Monday, so we've got from Sunday night, right? All the way to here, yeah? All right. So this is all this is a whole week's worth of price action here, yeah? Right, all of this here. And all you've got to do is find one perfect one, right? Now, I would be focusing on trend, right? Once obviously trend, confirms or you get your, consolidation, zone, that's obviously when you obviously, look, only you can come up with your plan. All right. Let's go on a four. No, let's do a daily again because I've messed it all up. Yeah. All right. All right. But, now I've got to obviously cater for, lots of people and obviously people, miss trades. That's why you're going to see me post, three, four trade opportunities, every single day. The truth is, if I didn't have the community, I'd be doing this. All right, because I'd be spending more time prepping, understanding. I'd probably pick maybe two or three pairs, and I would want the perfect trade every single week. All right, but all you've got to do to take this, and this is how easy it is. Yeah, all right. These are obviously our points here. Yeah, right. All you've got to do to go from 500 to 1K, right, is change this. That's it. You don't have to change the process or anything. Yeah. And then that gets you from 500 to 1K, right? You then, to go from 1K to 2K, you increase it to go from, to go to, say, for example, 4K per month, right? This is how easy it is. It's four trades, five lots, 30 pips. That's it, right? You do that four times. This puts gold into, perspective, all right? Because, you don't, you don't need to be worrying, about, right, I have to be in a trade. We need to basically get rid of the addiction, yeah, of trading, that, the endorphins wanting to get into a trade, wanting to be, active, right? We need to get rid of it, yeah, and just obviously work on, right. You know what? We want to achieve, say for example, right, your goals are goal A, your end goal, right, might be 10K, yeah, right? Or, say for example, it's 8K. Yeah. All right. That's your end goal. It's going to help you quit your job. It's going to help you pay off your house. All right. Start with this goal. All right. Because this end goal here gets you happy. All right. It gets you excited. It puts everything into perspective, makes you really, really want to achieve it. Yeah. All right, then you can obviously work, but back through time. It might be 3 months, 3 months, 3 months. 3 months. If you don't withdraw after 3 months, you're gonna have an extra 1,500 quid in your account. You're gonna be able to do this one, and then if you don't do that after 3 months, you're gonna have 3K plus your 1,500, and then you go to 2K and then 8K, and obviously you're working towards a plan, right? But you don't have to change your process at all. All right, this is your process here. One trade, doesn't matter if you make an 8K or 500. You still only have to take one trade, right? Pips wise, if this is your plan, it doesn't matter if you want to make 500 or 8K. This doesn't change, right? Pairs, you can choose different pairs, but this doesn't have to change. It's only this, right? It's only that changes, yeah? So you've got to really kind of, look into it and think about, what you want to achieve, but and obviously come to the conclusion that you're not trading because of how trading makes you feel when you're in a trade. So I promise you, one of the most interesting things about trading is I could be in the past, I could have been 3K in profit or £3 in profit. All right. It would still give me that epic feeling of, you know what, I've got this. All right. For example, even if I'd have lost, 1K, all right, and I've got, blown my account, but I've got like 20 quid left. And that 20 quid is £5 up. And I take that in the evening. Honestly, I'm probably going to bed happy because I'll be like, you know what, I made 5 quid. I can make this happen. When realistically, if I'd have been told this, 5 years before I kind of worked it all out, I would be working towards this. Yes, if as you get more confident, you can increase this. All right. So you might increase this to three trades, and then you might either leave it at 30 pips to, make more, or you might drop this to 10 to make it easier because you know that you're questioning your trades are going to be better than obviously, yeah, trying to hold out for 30 pips. All right, but this is how easy trading is, all right, in regards to, but it's not interesting, right? This is not, what gets told on Instagram or in Dubai or from a guy driving a, Lamborghini. This is not interesting, but this is the way you will become profitable. All right. And I can't stress this enough. And if you find it hard not to trade, have two accounts. Have your account that you are proud of. Yeah. All right. That's this one here, right? This is the one where we're going to be proud of. We're going to do things properly, all right? But if you really, really have to, and if you're, struggling to stay out, have your own little, fun uh, account, yeah? And with this account, you can trade anything, right? Deposit small, all right? Withdraw daily and only deposit once a week max. Yeah. All right. Because if you're taking, daily withdrawals, you're obviously okay to blow it. Yeah. Because hopefully, if you win on Monday, win on Tuesday, win on Wednesday, say for example, it's 100 quid. All right. You make 50 quid, Monday, 50 quid Tuesday, you blow it Wednesday. All right, then you're going to take Wednesday, Thursday, Friday off, but you've withdrawn £50 Monday and £50 Tuesday. All right, so you redeposit that the Monday after, and then so start again. And this is almost to feed that habit, of wanting to trade, well, wanting to scale accounts. All right, if you are struggling, but I promise you, monitor these goals. Yeah. All right. Have a real, long, hard, think about it. Make sure they're realistic. Make sure you can achieve them, because there's also things like, say for example, your goal is to make, 100K a month, and you're currently making, five. All right. You're not gonna know how to, manage that but money. If you go straight from 5K to 100, no, you need to go through this process because then you're gonna respect it, and then yeah, it's gonna mean so much more. But this is how crazy it is, right? Everyone just needs one trader week, and then once you're profitable, you're just scaling this bit, this, lots and the lots only. But to make 8K, you've only got to take four trades, 1K a week at five lots. You want to make 16. It's exactly the same. One trade, 30 pips, Euro USD, 10 lots. You want to make 32. It's exactly the same. One trade, 30 pips, Euro USD, 20 lots. Yeah, so really, really, think about this, work on your plan. I've had some great, probably the best one that I've had, you know, and I won't mention whose name it was, but obviously he was realistic, wanted to make an extra 500 quid a month. All right. Then scale that to 2K. All right. Then he wanted to pay off his house. All right. Because his house, and I won't mention why, was very, very important to him for sentimental reasons. And then obviously he wanted to, set up a charity. All right. That is the other thing to, speak about. Why have we come into trading? We want time, freedom. Does this give you time freedom here, or does taking 100 gold trades the day up, down, sideways, does that give you time freedom? Probably this one here, and that's going to give him enough time to create his charity to help. You could use that time to enjoy, family, everything. Apologies, guys, I've waffled on. It's going to end. Hope you've obviously enjoyed it and really, really implement it. Message me. I am happy to help. I'm pretty sure I've voice noted everyone. Yeah, really, really kind of, look at it and yeah, work on, starting off a goal C and then obviously work your way to goal A. And then, I'm here to obviously help you achieve it. All right, so have a great evening and we'll be back tomorrow, guys. Have a good one, yeah.